Hello, are you well? Yes, yeah. As Kieran was saying, I'm Lucy from Hot Press, and it's lovely to see you all in person and welcome you to the Grand Social for this incredible up close and personal event with Gemma, who'll be talking about her debut album, Night on My Side. And some of you may have been here last night for the Villagers one, but if you weren't, what we're going to do is we're going to be revisiting the album, going to be listening to tracks from it, and we'll also be getting insights from Gemma herself, who will play us a few songs as well. And yeah, as most people here probably know, Night on My Side was the album that kind of established Gemma as a very special artist, like obviously not just in Ireland, but around the world as well. Yeah, it was recorded kind of between France and New York with former Frames guitarist Dave Odlum and Mercury Rev's Dave Fridman as well. Night on My Side was first released in Ireland in 2002 by Source Records, and it was also nominated for the Mercury Prize that year alongside David Bowie and The Streets and the ultimate winner, Miss Dynamite. So obviously Gemma then went on to record several other beloved albums, including her latest LP, Bones and Longin, in 2014. So if you would like to join me in welcoming Gemma Hayes to the stage.
No pressure.
Yeah, how are you feeling, obviously revisiting this album almost 20 years to the day after it was released? Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to get over the fact that I'm on stage first, because this is the first time I've been on stage for about 4 or 5 years. So I just need to get my heart. Thank you for coming out, by the way. This is, I'm so glad you remember me. It's been a while. Yeah, to answer your question, it's so strange. I've never listened to Night on My Side full through, I have to admit, until maybe a week ago. And I've listened to songs like on their own, but I've never sat down and gone, oh, I think I'll put on my album, and you just don't do that. And it's been wonderful. I've felt a lot of different things, and a lot of sort of pride as well for the young'un that I was, and what I managed to do, you know.
Yeah, and obviously as this is your debut album, it makes sense at the beginning for us to kind of go back to your own beginning. Obviously you came from a musical family in Tipperary. Like, was there any kind of early collaborations in the house?
Oh God, yeah, there was. I mean, my father was in a band for 40 years. And actually he used to play country and western music, and I never realized that Night on My Side was country until I listened to it recently. I was just too close to it back then, but when I listened to it the other day, I realized that there's, do you get that? There's like a country vibe to it, massively.
Kind of Americana sort of country, yeah.
And that was definitely from my father, and you know, we weren't sort of GA people or hurling people. We were music people, you know.
Yeah.
So my sister played the fiddle, my father played the banjo, and then got into keyboards, and yeah, we would sort of jam, I suppose. Yeah. So music was always there.
Yeah.
In the house, and my parents did something really cool. Is that they always had instruments around the house, so that if you ever got bored, you would just, you know, because we lived out in the sticks, you'd naturally just gravitate towards an instrument and bash away and get all your feelings out, you know.
Yeah. What was it like then, kind of leaving that environment behind to come to Dublin?
It was brilliant. I mean, you know, I haven't been, you know, I grew up in a very sort of country, quiet village. Then I went to a boarding school that was run by nuns. And then all of a sudden I found myself up in UCD with, you know, a grant. And freedom, and nobody was telling me I had to be in at a certain time, and it was amazing. I mean, straight away, I personally, I wish I knuckled down a little bit more and did more work, but you know, it's weird sort of synchronicity, if that's the right word. When I went to UCD, there was a girl that I ended up sharing an apartment with, and she had the most beautiful Guild guitar, and she used to write her own music. And I, at that stage, was sort of, I maybe knew 3 chords, and I would write these very sort of depressing songs. My first song was called Dead Man. And she was amazing, and she told me about the International Bar. And we would, straight away, I mean, as soon as I went up to Dublin, I started going to the International Bar. If it wasn't for her, you know.
God, yeah.
So.
How much do you think those kind of early experiences then like fed into Night on My Side?
I mean, all of it, you know, it's sort of, it's weird, it's so weird. Have you been listening to the album, sort of? Good. Because I listened to it, and I mean, it's 20 years old, if maybe more than that. And I hear just such freshness and naivety as well, and freedom and passion, and I had no sense of consequence, you know. I'd never released anything really properly before, other than an EP, and I didn't know to care. Do you know? It was literally just, let's start the album with half a song, or why don't we add another song onto the end of that song? It's only a minute long, but why not? You know, there was no sense of what you can and cannot do. And that was sort of actually wonderfully due to lack of experience, which was the best experience ever in that environment, you know. There's no rules. I don't know what your question was.
That's it. Yeah, I think it makes sense then to listen to the first track, Day One, from the album.
Okay. I'll just look at the floor. I've never listened to my music in front of people. That's so funny. Thank you.
Yeah, but obviously the whole album was acclaimed by critics, but it's obvious that a lot of just regular people have a really deep connection to it still, like after 20 years. Like, but particularly tracks like Hanging Around and Back of My Hand, like even if you look them up online, the comments are still really fresh with people who are either finding you now or reconnecting with your music. Like, do you still get messages like from fans?
Yeah, I do. But the thing is, I try not to sort of read stuff online because just the way I'm formed, that, you know, it'll be the one negative thing that sort of I can't help but kind of feel it. So what I do is I just don't read anything. But every now and then I'll you know, sort of get a private message, you know, when people can kind of DM you. I'm not very tech savvy, but DM, whatever. And I can, and it's so beautiful when, I love it because, you know, I didn't get into music to be an entertainer. I'm not an entertainer. That's something I've had to really work on. I got into music really sort of as a kind of a healing process, or a way of just making life nicer or better. And that was sort of always in the music, and the fact that the music resonates with people is just the best feeling ever, really. Yeah.
Did they kind of pick up new significance for you yourself, kind of when you go back and listen to them now? Yeah,
actually there was one song that I wanted to try to play and I couldn't figure out how I played it. There's a few things that I didn't really know. I was using so many different tunings at the time and I forget what they are. So I couldn't figure out how to play the... Actually, I think I need to go online and see if anybody... Because, you know, because when you're doing gigs, people tend to nick a set list, where I used to have all the tunings. So if anybody has one of those, I'd really love to know how to play Tear on My Side. That'd be great. But in terms of the meaning of the songs, there's... sometimes you're kind of... When you're that young, there's certain experiences you haven't had. So I would sort of make it up, but not fake make it up, as in the situation may not have occurred, but the sentiment I've felt, you know, I felt loss, but then I'll make up a situation where somebody feels lost, but I know what that feeling is. And I've sort of, you know, so then as you get older and you know, live more, and you know, I've lost a parent and now I have that different sense of loss. And then I listen to that album or that song and I'll think, oh wow, I maybe I didn't know what I was singing about back then. You know, it meant something else, but now it takes on a different meaning, you know.
Yeah, and I know obviously Back of My Hand is one people are still connecting with a lot, and that's going to be your first performance.
It is, but I have to say something about this song because when I knew I was going to be talking about this album, I kind of went, oh God, I don't remember anything. Like, like I remember, so the first thing I thought, when I started listening to this song, the first thing I thought of was Paul Noonan, who was the drummer, in the kitchen in Tarbox, even though we didn't record the song in Tarbox, but he was in the kitchen in Tarbox and he was peeling a kiwi. And this was probably 2000 when kiwis, we weren't sure exactly how to eat a kiwi. You know, we didn't know whether you ate it like an apple or whether you peeled it like an apple or whether you cut it in half, whatever. And it was just an image that came into my head, was Paul was peeling it like an apple. And I was thinking, I think that's wrong. But he was really engrossed and he did it to perfection, and he just went to put the kiwi in his mouth and it slipped and smashed on the floor. And that to me was like, oh, Back of My Hand. For some reason, I connected to, it's not very deep and meaningful, but
it works. Yeah.
It works. Oh, and another thing I want to say about Back of My Hand was that, oh God, I thought I would have nothing to say, now I can't stop talking, was that there's a riff in this song that is kind of, I suppose, sort of inspired by kind of a New Order guitar. And it wasn't there until the very end. And the song was kind of empty, and it was bugging me because I just felt it was too plain and too nice. And the thing is, when you write sweet music, it's really important to have a kind of a murkier side, I think, to play with it. You know, if you have a sweet song and you add sweetness and everything's sympathetic, it's too much. And I was getting really pissed off about this song because the label were pushing it as a single, and I just didn't feel it was up to the challenge. And so I got my electric guitar and I saw this online, and I got a friend of mine to drill a bigger hole in the fattest string, you know, the hole for the fattest string, an E, make it bigger. And I went and got a bass string, and I put a bass string onto the electric guitar. And everybody was saying that's probably going to warp the neck, but it didn't, it never did. And I kept it on it. And I tuned that and the next string to the same chord to give that kind of chorus effect. And it was probably like a day before that song was due to be mastered. And I put down that riff. And I stepped back and went, yes, Lord. And I was so proud then when it went out there. But it was just about it wasn't going to happen until like the last minute, which was kind of cool. I wish I had that riff tonight, but I don't.
So are you ready?
When I get up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Be seeing you tomorrow? Will I be seeing you again? God knows we said so little, won't go so far as to call you a friend. But there's something in your ways that keeps me vying for a connection, and I know you feel the same. It's become a two-way addiction. Come on and give me your heart. Write it on the back of my hand and say it's forever. Well, we never really said goodbye. We kind of left it in the air. And as the train pulled off, I knew you loved her more. Oh no, 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 I'm not afraid to lose. Oh no, 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 just give me some time and I'll walk to a different groove. Go and give me your heart, write it on the back of her hand and say it's forever. Go on now and give her your heart, write it on the back of her hand and say it's forever. That's alright, that's okay. My thoughts of you are leaving. That's alright, that's okay. My thoughts of you are leaving anyway. Are fading anyway. On and give me your heart, write it on the back of my hand and say it's forever. Give me your heart. Come on and give me your heart.
Amazing. God. Yeah. I suppose, you know, a debut album, you're always going to approach it differently than, you know, your debut EP, for example.
Yeah.
Like as a proper kind of statement of who you are and
Yeah.
what you have to say. Like, is that kind of something you felt when approaching this one?
God. When I think back to how I was going to approach this, it was all very... it wasn't very cerebral, do you know what I mean? I wasn't thinking about it in that way. I was just kind of following the sound of what I liked, and I just knew what I didn't like, and it goes back to that thing of, like, I know I'm a songwriter, but I don't feel like a songwriter. I feel like somebody who kind of just makes music, and I love production, and I love dismantling a song or turning it upside down or having a wall of distortion, and where the voice is just accidental, you know, it's just sort of in there somewhere. And I didn't want this first album to be sort of singer-songwriter Gemma Hayes with some nice songs and nice music, and, you know, just sort of a nice photograph, because I saw that so much, and I used to kind of like react badly to the word songwriter because of my own ideas of what that meant. So all I knew is that I had Paul Noonan and I had David Odlum and I had Carl Odlum, and when we'd go into the rehearsal room, we would just have so much fun making music, and I thought, oh, I want that on my album. And then, you know, I was signed, and the record label had lots of opinions about who I should work with and how I should sound, and that was quite difficult, because kind of as a young girl, I was always sort of taught to be polite and to have people like you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, always make sure people like you. And I just found when I was dealing with record label people who had all these other ideas of what I was going to be, what I was going to do, I would listen and nod and go yes, and then I would just go away and do my own thing.
Yeah.
Which is probably a bad thing to do. I should probably have gone, no, that's not happening, but I would let them think good about themselves, and then I'd go off and just, you know. So they didn't want me to work with Dave Fridman, who is the producer. And their idea was that he only sells 100,000 records. 100,000 records is incredible. But they had this sort of sky high idea. And they said, no, you can't work with him because, you know, all his bands only sell 100,000 records. That's it.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't. But to me, he was the perfect guy for the job because his sound was sort of naive and bombastic, and every instrument that was there was unapologetic, you know. A big keyboard would come in, massive drums, and everything was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I really wanted that. And after I kind of asked him if he'd work with me and he said yes, then it was just up to the, you know, then I could let go and trust that all the different people I had around me would come up with the goods.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. That's it. I have to say, when I was listening back to the album, those musicians, you know, like Paul Noonan, who's like, he's a brilliant drummer. Obviously, he's a brilliant songwriter as well, and he's a gentleman.
Yeah.
And so I was very lucky to have, you know, I could have been surrounded by assholes, but I wasn't. I was surrounded by like really decent, good, lovely people.
Yeah.
Which I was very lucky, because some people, you know, didn't have it like that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think next one is Over and Over.
Yeah. Great. I mean, I've never done anything like this before, but to have to listen to my song with you listening to the song with me on the stage is all very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. But going back, I suppose, you didn't like sign the first record deal that you were offered. Like you kind of held off for a bit, which like a lot of young artists in your shoes wouldn't have done. You know? Why did you kind of choose to go that way?
For two reasons. One, I had really good advice. I had a great manager at the time, Kieran Owens, who used to run the event guide years and years ago. And he was brilliant. He just got it, you know, and he wasn't fazed by these big, massive labels coming in, you know, offering massive money. And I was kind of like, wow, this is amazing. And he was like, no, it's not amazing. Look at the percentage you have to give away. I'm like, oh, right, I didn't read the small print. You know, you don't know about those things. So he was amazing. And also I found this little French company called Source Records, and they were a subsidiary of Virgin, but they were left to do their own thing. You know, so they had sort of the finances from Virgin, but they creatively they could do whatever they wanted. And there was a guy called Philippe Ascoli, and he had signed Kings of Convenience and Tour and Breaks, and he had worked with Air on Moon Safari, and these are all bands that I thought were just incredible. And he wanted to sign me, and to me that was just like, yep. And it was a lot smaller. I mean, it wasn't a big fancy deal, you know.
Yeah.
But it was real, and he loved what I was doing, and it felt just good and right. But really, probably if it wasn't for Kieran, I would have gone with the first one.
Yeah.
Only out of pure, you know, being sort of dazzled by the whole thing. But luckily I didn't.
Yeah, I know you said earlier that they were kind of wary of what producers you were working with. But like in general, did you feel you had kind of creative freedom?
Yeah, no, Source were brilliant. Source were fantastic. But it's complicated because then Virgin got involved. So then there was A&R people from Virgin that started coming in going, no, she's not going to be indie, she's going to be this. Yeah. And it was just too many people and too many opinions.
Yeah.
But anyway, the great thing is Dave Fridman, his studio was in a cabin up in the woods in northern, north of New York. New York, what is it? New York?
Upstate.
Upstate. So I just got on a plane and went over to him, and I actually said to them, look, if you're not into this, I'll use my advance money to pay him.
Yeah.
But I just want to work with him. So they had agreed, they said, well, we're not supporting this, we're not supporting you working with him. And then the night before I got the plane, Philippe Ascoli called me and he said, we'll cover the cost. You go do your record and we will support you. So yeah, all this, you know, the red tape you have to go through just to make some music.
Yeah, I think next we're going to listen to one of those tracks that was recorded in New York, Let a Good Thing Go.
Yeah. I'm really proud of that song.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Because, yeah, just because when I wrote it, I didn't have an electric guitar at the time, and I bought a distortion pedal called a rat pedal, and I put my acoustic through the rat pedal instead, and it was the biggest sound, and I was like, people should be doing this all the time because it's bigger than an electric guitar, you know, and then the band was just at the start, me, Paul and Carl, and we would gig and I would play that song. I just loved the power of it because it just went from like acoustic, and then me and Carl would hit the distortion pedals together at the same time, and it would literally blow people's hair back. And it was just fun. So it was really fun to record. And there's a guy singing Ooze at the end. That poor chap, he came into the studio one day to have a cup of tea with Dave Fridman. He was a friend of his, and I found out that he was a trumpet player, and then I was like, well, can you play in the album? And he brought his trumpet the next day, and he never left. He stayed for the whole thing, and he sang on a whole bunch of the songs. And I don't think he ever got paid, but got lots of tea.
God. What was it like though, like heading off on your own almost, well, to New York when you're still in your early 20s, you know?
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. It's weird, there's just so much drive, you know. I had pure belief. I mean, me outside of music, I was, you know, sort of very unsure of myself. But once it came to music and knowing what I wanted, knowing everything, it was just really clear. So I felt, I mean, I was nervous as hell going to New York and intimidated, you know, because Dave Fridman had worked with bands that I really liked, and so I felt sort of underqualified, you know, because I wasn't doing this for very long. And, but he was just such a lovely guy, and sort of, you know, he didn't see it that way.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant. One thing though about Dave Fridman, which me and him have never spoken about, is that when I walked into the control room where, you know, he would sit, he had a picture of Britney Spears and he used to bug the crap out of me, and it was like it wasn't stuck onto a wall, it was just sort of free standing. And because Britney Spears was big at the time, but you know, I wasn't a fan. And so I just started to turn the picture upside down, just as a little thing, you know. And then the next morning, he'd always be in the studio first, and I'd come in and he'd have put it the right way around. And we did it every single day for the entire session, and we never spoke about it. I would then turn it upside down, and I'd come in and he'd put it right. Oh my Lord.
You should have dedicated the album to Britney.
To Britney,
yeah. God, yeah. But a lot of kind of artists do have this very kind of romantic view of America, or of like a real America. Like, did you have that when you were kind of heading over there?
Yeah, I mean, New York, I think, is very special. I can't remember if that was my first time going. No, that wasn't my first time going over to America. I've been over once before, but it definitely lived up to the idea of, you know, the log cabin and the sort of nighttime hunters. You know, sort of. I won't say hick because I would never say that, but you know, the kind of country.
Yeah.
America up in country folk up in the mountains and stuff. So because the cabin was, he didn't live in the cabin, obviously, he lived down in Fredonia, but the studio was in this cabin in the woods. But our next door neighbours, they had pet mountain lions. Jeez. And the other neighbours used to like to go hunting at night. These guys, and they had all these, I mean, they were probably semi-automatic weapons, I wouldn't know, but they were like just serious weapons. And they would get into all the camouflage sort of gear with the mud on their faces, and they would go, I don't know what they were killing at night, but it was just freaky, you know, to be trying to sleep at night and you're hearing gunshots and all this stuff. Bit scary.
Yeah. On that note,
on that note, I ran for miles. Basically.
Yeah, basically.
Let it go?
Yeah.
God, that was really cheesy, sorry. Not my finest moment. Where am I? Here.
Well, I got myself a new day, and I got myself a second chance. So I headed to the bus stop, and the sun was warm on my back. Today I ran for miles just to see what I was made of. Today I ran for all that was mine. Yeah. Well, I got myself a song inside, and I got myself some full-blown daylight. Wanna tell you just how hard it's been, trying to talk myself out of jumping. Today I ran for miles just to see what I was made of. Today I ran for all that was mine. Yeah. Today I ran for miles just to see what I was made of. Today I ran for all that was mine, just to see what I was made of. Today I ran for all that was mine. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, with that track, like obviously all over the album, there's such vulnerable and honest lyrics, like, but on that one, like, you know, lyrics like trying to talk myself out of jumping and these kind of really emotional ones. Like, how does that feel, kind of revisiting those lyrics now, 20 years on?
Well, actually, so when I was listening to the album, and I sort of nearly saw, because it's been such a long time, that I nearly pictured myself as another person.
Yeah.
So I was kind of hearing me sing, going like, "Oh, Gemma," you know. You know, there was a lot going on. There was a lot of. It's very hard to talk about this, isn't it? Because it's the reason I got into music, right? Is because it makes me feel better. But I did, you know, when I was a teenager, I didn't have a good time. I didn't like sort of being in my skin. I wasn't comfortable in my skin. I wasn't comfortable at all. I was very awkward. And actually that came into my 20s as well. I used to have severe panic attacks in very sort of what people would think are normal situations, but to me, I just couldn't handle it. So there was stuff going on, you know, that's never really, that I didn't know how to process. And it's not at all that I was like suicidal, thinking of jumping, but it was just that feeling of just being out of my depth and not knowing how to sort of function, and wondering why I can't function like other people, and why I can't laugh at the right time, and why you know, I seem to be in a kind of a fog.
Yeah.
You know, it's not there anymore, but definitely, you know, just sort of going through those years are tough. You know, I think for some people, I think it might be easy, but you know, I found it very hard to deal with, and I can't be the only person to kind of, you know, when it comes to, it's weird what two things can exist at the same time. So then I would go into the studio and I would have all this belief and passion and confidence, but it coexisted with this kind of deep self-loathing, you know, and so it's sort of it was just kind of like a heavy, hard time, and that's why I'm really proud that I sort of was able to write songs like that and kind of get it out, and it made it easier, you know.
Yeah, sure. I think we're now going to run into 2 tracks, What a Day and Tear My Side.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's an accordion on that song.
Yeah.
And that was recorded. It really needs to be kind of made clear with Night on My Side that Dave Friedman produced some of it, but David Odlum also produced a bunch of the songs as well. And that kind of gets overlooked, I think, because Dave Friedman's a bigger name. And Dave Odlum, he produced Back of My Hand, Tear on My Side, a whole bunch of others.
Yeah.
But so we made this in France, in another kind of a cabin out in the middle of nowhere. And there was the guy who owned the studio, his friend, another friend, was over, a farmer, and they were having wine. And the farmer mentioned that he played accordion. So I thought, oh, maybe you could be on the album. So the guy got his accordion and he came in and he sat down and he was quite nervous because he'd never recorded on an album before. So what you hear him playing was him warming up. So he hadn't even started to play, but what he was playing once he didn't think he was being recorded was amazing.
Yeah.
But as soon as we'd hit record, he'd stiffen up and he couldn't play. So we just said, look, we're not recording you, it's fine, you can just warm up. And then he just started doing all this amazing stuff, and we caught it. And then we played it back to him and said, you know, we actually recorded you. Sorry.
Did he
I
get
don't
paid?
think he got paid.
Yeah.
No.
I know.
Be lawsuits now.
Yeah.
Never.
But how did the dynamic kind of change between when you were co-producing with Dave Odlum and Dave Friedman?
Well, it's just, I suppose, it's different people, different personalities. I'd known David for years, and we'd been partners for years, so there was like a real sort of a comfort there. But I also, and I still do to this day, and that's why I still work with him. I have absolute faith and trust in how he hears music, you know. So, and he knows when I'm slacking off, or you know, because I'm making an album with him at the moment, and every now and then he'll. Thank you. Thank you. Should have been done ages ago, but the old pandemic sort of put a pause to it. But he knows me through and through, you know. So even recently, I wrote a song, and he said, "Oh, I really like the song, but there's one line that I think is kind of weak," and I went, "Damn." I was hoping I could get away with it because I was struggling with that line, and I thought I'll put this in, and you know, I'll sing it, whatever, and you know, it's just one line that's been killing me for ages, and I can't get it right. And he spotted it straight away and went, take that out. You can do better. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So it's that kind of relationship, you know. He kind of knows, and kind of can push me to write better, because he knows that I have it in me to do it, you know. So it's just kind of different. It's more relaxed. Yeah. Like that.
God. We're gonna play "I Want to Stay," which was also produced by Dave Odlum, was it?
Oh, I can't remember.
Do they all blend together?
I can't remember. I think it was Dave Odlum, wasn't it?
Sure, we'll listen and find out.
Okay.
I think we fade out just before, but at the very end of that, there's a recording of like kids playing in a back garden. Is that Mick Christopher's back garden, was it?
Yeah, that is.
How did that come about?
I was up visiting Mick in his house, and myself and David Odlum, we were working on Mick's album, because he had a motorcycle crash, and he was in hospital. So we thought, as a kind of like a surprise, we would, because he wanted me to sing on the album and do stuff. So we were trying to finish it off and bring it into him into the hospital as a sort of like, oh look, listen to this. I mean, I might have hated it, but the intentions were good, that, you know. And when I was recording, we had the window open, and there's a nursery downstairs, and all the kids went out into the back garden to play. And so I had this thing at the time of, just if I heard a sound, or if I heard a whistle from something, I would record it. So I had a little recorder, and I just recorded the kids, and then I just kept it for ages, and then later I was coming up with this little guitar riff, and I put the kids singing over it, and I kind of thought there was a nice vibe to it, something kind of strange and dreamy.
Why on that track in particular, kind of?
I don't know if there was any major significance. I think I really wanted to put it on the album, and I kept being told there's just too many songs on the album. And I'm like, well, just tag it on the end of one. So I think I just wanted it on the album and somewhere.
Yeah, for sure, I think now we're going to play Lucky One.
Yeah. You know, just listen to that. I just feel so blessed to have had the band that I had. You know, just, you know, they just put their heart and soul into it, and the dedication, and we'd stay up till late until we got it right and got the vibe of it right, and you know, just I was so lucky to have those people around me, you know, because they, you know, this isn't a one person thing, you know. They brought these songs to life, and you know, I wanted the song to be epic, and it was epic, and it's just fantastic, you know. And it's such good fun to play live as well. I haven't played it live in a long time, but I can't wait to play the song on stage. And
that kind of big, like, atmospheric kind of rock sound, like, was that something you kind of were immersed in yourself, kind of growing up, even, like, kind of My Bloody Valentine? And
just kind of got into guitar music. And, I mean, Nirvana was the first, you know, thing that really kind of woke me up to that kind of music. And I loved it, and it got me, like, you know, the rest of the world at that age, when you sort of feel disconnected, and then somebody's singing about this kind of stuff, and the music resonates. And I love it. I love the power of coming up with a small idea, and then with more people you create a bigger sound. It's a really sense of, there's a wonderful sense of just being part of something bigger than yourself.
Was it Kevin Shields from My Bloody Valentine? He joined you on stage once, wasn't it?
He did, yeah.
It must have been amazing.
It was fantastic. Bit scary as well, because I was a massive fan of his, and so it was just a bit sort of overwhelming to have him on the stage. But then, I mean, you know, we actually wrote a few songs together that we've never released. We wrote, God, we must have written about 10 songs.
Jesus.
And we would just stay up, and it was on an old DAT machine. So I only have a CD copy of it. I think he has the DAT still, but there's about 10 songs. I mean, they're not finished, but it was just ramblings. But it was wonderful because he's quite shy, actually, you know, and we wanted to write together, but we didn't know how to start it. So we just got in a room together, and nothing was happening. So he weird tuned an electric guitar and gave it to me, and I weird tuned an electric guitar and gave it to him. And we both went like, clang, what the hell? So we just started finding chords, and then we'd go, oh, that goes with that. Oh, that's really nice. And then we'd just turn on the pedals and hit the DAT machine and just make noise, and it was brilliant. At the time. I haven't listened to it in a long time. It might not sound brilliant now, but it was great fun.
Like, did you ever kind of come across that kind of misconception, sort of that, like, as like a female singer-songwriter, you're doing the soft kind of music, and then your, like, male collaborators are the ones, like, bringing the heavy kind of rock element to it?
So much. So much. It actually really grated on me for a while, until I realised that I can't just go around having this annoy me all the time. But it was just all these set preconceptions. That it was just sort of lazy thinking, you know, that girls play acoustic and sing soft, and then the boys have all the fun with the instruments. And, and even though in my album I was right in the heart of creating the sound, sometimes there would be an assumption that I was sort of like the cherry brought in at the end just to sing, and that I had really nothing to do with the creative process, which is the complete opposite. But you know, there's only so much I can control. I can't control what people think.
I think next you're going to perform My God. You're saying you haven't performed that one live.
I've never performed this live. Only because it's too hard. But I'm older now. Don't know if that makes any difference, but I got to tune up. This song was written watching television upstairs in Tarbox in New York, and I just started sort of playing the guitar, and I came up with this little song which is very country. And it's got more verses than I've ever written in my life. Are you all right? You're so quiet, and I can't see you, which
I wanted to make sure because I was a bit nervous and I thought if I saw everybody I'd freak out, but there you are. Okay, put back down the lights. Nearly there. I think there's a snake here. I think you're on fire. My God, I hope you're on call, 'cause I may be in danger of crashing before I get to fall. Let's cry, boy, while the neighbors have their backs turned. I'm having trouble believing anything you say. I'll keep the car running outside. You go and make up your mind. You stand here running wild with me. You know I could still love you. Yeah. My God, looks like I'm going it alone. Can't wipe the tears away fast enough. Now I can't see the road. Got a boot full of dreams and a pocket full of reasons not to stay. Got a cross of Jesus round my neck, hoping he'll help me find my way. Was so afraid of losing. Now I'm scared of what I've won. Was so afraid of leaving. Now I don't think I can return. Yeah. And all along there was a need for change, and so I thought I better leave this place. But all I had to do was change my mind. All I had to do was change my mind. My God, is it alright if I turn right back around? I reckon I fly highest when my feet are planted on the ground.
Unreal. That is like that song, obviously it's in the title, but like even in the lyrics as well, there is kind of this like religious imagery and stuff. Like, is that something you were kind of like thinking about or inspired by when you were writing it?
Well, yeah, I suppose, just kind of the idea of needing something to hold on to and something to believe in, you know, if you kind of have nothing else to, and then, but also, I mean, I grew up in a very religious family, you know, I was sort of the youngest of 8, which is a good, healthy Catholic number.
Yeah. God, do you think that had kind of some bearing on
Oh yeah, definitely.
the kind of future course of your own life? Like,
no.
no.
I'm not sure. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I suppose my life has brought me to this point, and you know, every experience leads to the choice you make next, you know, and how you see things. So in that sense, you know, being from a very Catholic family where we said the rosary every night and turned off the television, and you know, we all had our own rosary beads, and sort of, it was great because I did have a very strong faith, so I always felt protected. And then you kind of get to the age where you question that and you wonder, and I still have a great faith, but just my idea of it has changed and it's broadened, you know.
For sure,
It's not a man with a beard anymore.
Next we're going to play the title track, Not on My Side, and we're going to lead into Pieces of Glass then as well.
Okay. Another add-on.
Yep.
I didn't realize how country this, for some reason it just, I don't know why it went over my head, but when I listen to it, it really is a, I feel
the
like
title track in particular,
it just should be in that section
of
the shop.
But the sound on the title track is just amazing, and as you're saying, the band, like you've got like obviously Paul Noonan, Carl Odlum, Colin McNamara, and like Ray Harmon as well. Like, were they kind of people you were hanging around with in Dublin at the time?
Exactly. And just great musicians, and I think Brian Crosby played on something as well. But I just had another memory because Paul Noonan grunts when he plays the drums. When he really gets into it, he starts grunting. Sorry, Paul. But the overhead microphones for the drums would always pick it up.
Jesus.
So it was always a case of like, can you try not to, can you do another take and try not to grunt? But when he gets into it, he just does. And I just have a memory of him like trying not to grunt and playing these songs. They're just brilliant. It's such a brilliant time. You know, and they were brilliant people to make music with, and I just feel really sort of blessed that I got to do that, and to make something that was meaningful. You know, and that resonated with some people is, you know, it's just wonderful. It's just such a wonderful thing to have had the opportunity to do. You know?
And like the way you end with that Pieces of Glass, I think it was a hidden track originally, like, but was like, that's probably the kind of most kind of raw and on your own track that's on the whole album. Like, was that kind of intentional to end it like that?
Not at all. I mean, probably yes, to end it raw, but it was more because of the feeling of it. You know, again, I sort of wasn't thinking in that sense. It was just like, oh, it just feels right to put it there. I don't know why, but it just feels right to kind of, it's a sort of an unusual album because it kind of goes all over the place, you know.
Yeah.
And I know that for people who were trying to promote this album, it was very difficult for them, because it was folk and then it wasn't folk, and it was rock but it wasn't all rock,
Mm-hmm.
and it was country and it was pop, and it
Yeah.
didn't fit into any one category easily.
Yeah.
So I know it made their job difficult, but it was a hell of a lot of fun to make.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like, looking back now, like, how do you think that the album kind of influenced the rest of your life, kind of?
Well, I mean, it's, you know, I formed friendships with that album that it's sort of, you know, musical friendships that have seen me right through the last 20 years. And that's been a massive thing. And also, I mean, that introduced me to people like yourselves who, you know, who allow me to do this and to keep going on and making music, because it's kind of hard now at the moment. I've been out of it for so long that I hear people don't buy albums anymore. That, you know, it's all streaming, and, you know, it's all, I don't even want to know. I'm just going to make the music and figure it out after that. But I mean, that album has allowed me to make a career out of music, and has set me up, and actually the record label were brilliant in the end.
Yeah.
And it was because of them that the album got well promoted and people got to hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was just great. Very
Yeah.
blessed to have had all of that.
Yeah. I think next year will be the 20th anniversary. Like, are there plans to kind of mark that in any way?
But we were going to do like a vinyl, sort of a limited vinyl. Because some people online were saying, you do some vinyl of it, and we're like, oh, that might be nice. And maybe there's a lot of old demos from that time that were never put out, of songs that just sort of were just made up kind of on the spot, or just by over the years before that.
Yeah.
And so we might kind of do some sort of a little package.
Yeah.
We've just started talking about it because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, but I'd say the new album is kind of keeping you busy for now.
well, between that and 2 kids,
Yeah.
the kids are keeping me busy because they're just nuts. And then trying to sort of it's the new challenge. It's the new thing now. Is just to try to figure out how to keep that flame alive for myself as an artist, and balance that with, you know, just responsibilities and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting journey.
Yeah. Well, I think before you play us out, just thank you all for coming. It's been amazing, and thanks, Gemma, for obviously sharing this album with us and your performances. Incredible, beautiful. Yeah, and I should also say that the Up Close and Personal series is it's produced by Hot Breasts in association with Aidan Shortall of Up Close and Personal Promotions, and it's been supported by the Department of Tourism and Culture as well. So thank you. And
well, thank you very much, Lucy, and thank you everybody for coming out, because it's been a really long time for me, and I was excited about this, but I was also really nervous.
I know.
And it's just done me the world of good to see you all for that split second when the light came on. And to talk to you, and just to kind of, it sort of just feeds that part of you, you know, the music part, which is wonderful.
For
so
sure.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can I go first? Yeah. I'm not plugged in. All right. Yeah. I'm a bit rusty.
I used to want the morning, you and me just hanging around. But I can't shake this feeling off, can't shake this dead weight off of my back. It's a troubled place we stay, where we just wait it out, and we give too much away, leaves you cold, old, got no place else to go in a daze, just hanging around. It's a dirt ground we crawl upon. I've stared at your face for far too long. It's a troubled place we stay, where we just wait it out, and we give too much away, leaves you cold, old, cold, old. I used to want the morning, you and me just hanging around. It's a troubled place we stay, where we just wait it out, and we give too much away, and we just wait it out, in the words you meant to say, in the words I gave away, leaves you cold, oh, it leaves you cold, oh. Used to want the morning, used to want the morning with you. Used to want the morning, used to want the morning with you. Used to want the morning, used to want the morning with you.
That was good crack.
Because the audience were amazing.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah.
Do you want to go down?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.